Hi everyone, it's Bashira. I see about 7 of you here. Glad that you all could join for today's Essentials group class. Can everyone hear me okay? And you can just type yes or hi or something in the chat box. Great. Thanks for that. Great. All right. So today's topic is on portion control or portion distortion, which is it's a very key topic when we think about weight management and weight loss. Because in the last 20 years or so, particularly in the United States, our portions have just been supersized. So it's really important to just understand portion sizes, serving sizes, so that you have an understanding of what you're really eating. And I'm going to close these windows. You guys don't have a glare coming in. All right, I think that's a little better. All right, so you have a handout in the classroom that you can download. There are 2 handouts. There's one with the lesson that I'll walk you through, and then another handout on some common portion sizes for you to refer back to as well, which that can be a really handy dandy thing to keep on your phone if you're not sure about something. It's kind of a visual guide. So feel free to download those. And then don't forget to wait until the end of the class. I will end the class, and then you'll be redirected to a survey so that we can account you as attending today and get you your PERCA points. Oh, great. We have one more person join. Excellent. All right, so we'll dive into the presentation today. So as I mentioned, our portions in the United States have really been supersized in the last 20 years or so. We've gone from a hamburger being, around 300 calories to something more around 600-700 calories. From our portions of food and our portions of drinks, everything is now supersized. Our plates are even supersized. Our drink cups are even supersized. So really important to keep in mind that, as we get older, as we're more sedentary, as we're older, our muscle mass declines, and just simply an extra 100 calories a day for the average adult can lead to 10 pounds of weight gain per year. So it adds up really quickly. We can pack on the pounds pretty quickly, wake up a year later, and we're 10 pounds heavier. So it's really important to keep an eye out for our portions as we're eating, and to have some visual guides for what those portion sizes are, and are we over-consuming, eating more than what we need to be eating. So we'll go on to the next page in the deck. Any questions about serving sizes or anything you find surprising about this slide? So you got 2 people typing in. I'll give you guys a second here to type in. Susan, so certainly what I've experienced. Yes, it can be very eye-opening when we start to pay a little bit more attention to our portions. I think probably more eye-opening portion size is on beverages. I think that's probably where people tend to underestimate sometimes, especially when we go out for coffee and we have our coffee drinks. They never quite seem as large as we think they are, or the calories don't seem as high as we think they are with some of those coffee drinks. Anyone have any additional insight? All right, so we'll go on to the next slide. Feel free to chime in if you have questions or if you have any additional thoughts as I'm going along. So I want to cover what is a portion size versus what is a serving size. So a portion is really the actual amount that you eat, that you choose to eat, and there really isn't a necessarily an exact amount of what portions everyone should be eating. It kind of varies. It varies by how active you are, your age, your height, your weight, your health status. So for instance, someone who is a marathoner might have a very different portion of the amount of carbohydrates that they're consuming every day versus the average female who maybe works full time, gets in, 150 minutes of exercise. Very, very different portions in terms of their intake of carbohydrates. So it really does vary. Versus a serving size is kind of a standard unit of measure. And serving sizes were developed by the USDA for us to understand kind of a unit of measure to gauge exactly how much we're eating. So the USDA put together some standard serving sizes to help us to understand and really be able to easily identify, when we consume fruits and vegetables, exactly what are we eating? Or when we consume meat, what is a kind of a standard serving? And what are the calories associated with that so that you have a good visual cue? Your hands are a really great way to provide you with visual cues about how much you're eating. So your fist is generally about a cup. A woman's fist is a little bit smaller, so it might be about a half a cup. But if you're thinking about something solid, your fist is a good guide for a half a cup to a cup. The palm of your hand is a good guide for meat and protein. About 3 ounces is the size of your hand, and that's the standard serving size for meat. Your thumb is a good guide for 1 to 2 tablespoons. So, you can visualize like a tablespoon of salad dressing as the size of your thumb. And then if you cup your hand, that's a good visual for a half a cup of, like, say, nuts. And then 2 cupped hands together, kind of right in the center of your palm. If you cup your hands together, is about 1 ounce. So that's kind of sometimes a good visual for cheese. Always a good idea if you need even more of a visual to take some measuring cups or some measuring spoons or a scale and measure things out once so that you can really see for yourself with the common foods that you eat exactly what a serving size looks like. So take a chicken breast and after you've cooked it, measure it out on a scale so you can see what 3 ounces looks like and compare that to the palm of your hand. Very good way for you to really reinforce some of those visual cues. Do any of you do that currently? Or have you done that in the past with some of the commonly eaten foods that you use? Jennifer says yes. Always a good idea to do it at least once so that you have an understanding. How about when you eat? Do any of you use your hands as guides? Lou says he uses a scale. Awesome. Normally a scale for Stephanie as well, especially when she's cooking meats. Yep, for the palm of your hand as well. Good. Yes, your hand as a guide for meats is a really good one. And Linda says no, but she'll start. Yes, definitely do it one time just so you can see it. Blue, yes, a deck of cards is also another good visual for 3 ounces. Some other good visuals, and that's in the handout that you have in the classroom, are to use a baseball. If you get a small baseball, that's about a cup of food. A checkbook is about the size of 3 ounces of fish, since fish is a little bit leaner. Your smartphone can also be a good guide for lean meat. If you have one of the larger iPhone 7s or one of the Android larger phones, that's a good guide for about 6 ounces of lean fish. You could use the size of a compact disc to estimate deli meat. That's a good guide. If you're trying to figure out like a muffin or a biscuit, a hockey puck is a good guide for about 3 ounces or 100 grams of like a piece of bread. A poker chip is a good estimate for a tablespoon, so that's also another good visual. And then also for cheese, if you have some dice, 3 dice is about 1.5 to 2 ounces of cheese. That's a good way to visualize how much cheese you're really eating. So take a look at that handout. It lists several other things to help you compare things to. I think one area of food that often confuses people are grains and cereals, and trying to stick with a serving size of those. So most of your grains and cereals are probably 3/4 of a cup is a serving size. And our bowls now are so large and supersized that we are often not really sure about what a 3/4 of a cup really looks like. So that's one. If you do eat cereal, I would encourage you to measure that out. If you do incorporate brown rice or quinoa or pasta, measure that out so you can really see what a 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup of brown rice or pasta or quinoa really looks like. Because that one can be pretty deceiving. Stephanie is typing in, so I'll give you a second to do that. Should you measure pasta before or after it's cooked? Measure it out after it's cooked, because it will shrink. So you can follow the package directions to cook it and then measure out a 1/2 cup after it's cooked. Another confusing area of portions is around fats and oils. And it's always a good idea to remember that our fat calories increase pretty quickly. So there are more calories per gram of fat than any other micronutrient. So you always want to keep your serving sizes of fat in mind. So a great idea is to measure out a tablespoon of salad dressing so you can really see what that looks like. If you're using any pure oil, measure out a teaspoon of olive oil or canola oil so you can really see what that looks like. About 100 calories of olive oil or canola oil is probably about 2 teaspoons. Extra virgin olive oil, you might be able to do close to 3 teaspoons or a tablespoon for 100 calories. It's always a good idea to measure it out so you can really see when you put some oil in a pan, how much are you really using. I have a dispenser that I got off of Amazon that you can put your oil in, and it actually has teaspoon and tablespoon measurements at the top of it, and you squeeze the oil up, and then you can really see precisely how much oil you're using. So that's also a great tool. I think it's maybe about a $10, $15 investment maybe. So if you do a lot of cooking, that might be something worth investing in as well. I can't remember the brand, but I got it on Amazon. It's a glass container, and it has a funnel inside and a nozzle at the top. And then it has, basically it's glass, but the top portion of it has a suction where it funnels the oil up to the top portion, measures it out for you so that you can see how much you've funneled up, and then you can pour it out. All right, any questions about portion sizes before I move on to going through some tips? Does anyone still eat muffins or kind of your baked goods? That's another portion area that many people are deceived by. Not much anymore, Susan? Yeah, it's a little challenging to do that within your meal plan, but I am not judging. All right, so we'll go on to the next page with some tips to really help you. So one tip I commonly see people do is, especially if they're going out to eat, they'll try to save up in anticipation of that dinner meal. That is not a good strategy to follow. You really want to follow your meal plan and eat at regular times every 3 hours, and try not to skip meals. When we skip meals and we go into a meal overly hungry, we are 9 times out of 10 going to overconsume. Oh, you posted the measuring. Let me click on that and I'll tell you if that's the one that I have. Yes, that is it. You got it. So it's the HOM Equip 8.5 ounce olive oil glass dispenser and pump. It is $9.99 on Amazon. Thanks for that. Highly, highly recommend getting it. In fact, I probably need 2 in my house. So yes, I highly recommend that as a tool. It's a great investment. Don't travel with it though. I find that when I dismember it and then try to put it back together, it doesn't work as well. So try to keep it in one place and keep it, if you feel like I do a lot of demos, so I need one separate for when I do demos. All right, so keep your regular meal timing. Try to stay within that every 3 hours. You're eating a meal or a snack, and try not to skip any meals. That's really key. You don't want to go into a meal overly hungry. We tend not to be as mindful when we're overly hungry, and we're likely to overconsume, and we're not thinking about portion sizes as much. Another really good portion control tip is don't eat out of the package. If you can, avoid purchasing large packages of things, with the exception of fruits and vegetables. We're not talking about those, but if you can avoid purchasing large packages of foods, do so. I mean, I know we have families, and sometimes we need to buy those things in bulk, but particularly snack foods, you want to buy individual packages and not have to worry about portioning things out, unless you feel confident that you can bring something home, you can portion it out, and you can really measure out a serving. So really, if you can do that, look at the label and really understand what truly is a serving size and go ahead and portion it out. So I find this is probably more problematic when we're eating things like chips or crackers or cookies or some of those snack foods. So try to get an individual portion. If you can't buy an individual portion of something, then portion it out as soon as you buy it and stick to one serving size from what the label directs and one small portion. We bring home those supersized bags of foods, we're more than likely to overeat, especially if we're eating right out of the bag. All right, my downfall is definitely tortilla chips. Can't eat them out of the bag. count out a serving size and put the bag away, or just don't bring it home. All right, another great tip is to really honor your body's cues. You really want to just pay attention to when you're physically hungry. I don't know why my screen has frozen, you guys. Hopefully it's not freezing for you all, but it is for me. But you really want to be aware of when you're physically hungry and when you have gotten to the point of feeling satisfied, and really try to honor that and slow down enough so that you really understand those cues. So slow down while you're eating so that you understand when your stomach is starting to fill up. When you're in fact getting to the point of being satisfied, your stomach is no longer empty. So really try to slow down and honor those cues. All right, smaller dishes, glasses, and serving spoons. This is a really good one. So over the years, our plates have gone from 9 inches to sometimes even 15, 20 inches in diameter. So really look at your plates and assess the size of your plate. Simply using a smaller dish, a smaller bowl, a smaller plate can help you to stay at a healthy portion and within a serving size. So if you have larger than 9-inch plates at home, would highly encourage you to not fill up that entire plate unless you're filling it with, like, some, half your plate with steamed veggies. We encourage you not to fill up that entire plate. Or when you think about purchasing plates in the future, really read the plate and see if you can get a 9-inch plate. You can definitely get some portion control plates on Amazon as well, and I've seen 9-inch plates at Target too. So pretty much anywhere you can get a 9-inch plate. It's just a matter of seeking it out and really reading the box just to make sure that you've got 9-inch plates. You've gotten glasses that are only 8 ounces. Your bowls are, really like 1 cup, max 2 cup bowls, so that you can really have more control over what you're putting on your plate, what you're putting in your glasses and in your bowls. Has anyone kind of downsized to using smaller plates, smaller dishes? Susan, Kathy says yes, Susan says no. Yeah, it is a really good thing to, Louise says yes, Jennifer says yes. Yeah, it's a really great thing to keep in mind. Simply when we see food, a lot of times we want to eat it. We're used to being part of the clean plate club. So the more that you can control visually what's in front of you, the better. And then, honoring those cues around hunger and satiety as well. So think about really purchasing, I know it might be an investment, but think about purchasing some smaller plates. And I would go for a 9-inch plate, and your bowl's around a cup, no more than 2 cups for a bowl. All right, another tip is if you've made something in batch, which, I recommend doing some batch cooking. Sorry for the typos in this slide. This was clearly last night as it was late, trying to get prepared for you guys. So if you do some batch cooking, really place your leftovers in single-serve containers or freeze them in single-serve containers for future use. So I would, try to minimize, and you can. This will cut down on the amount of work that you have to do later in the week. So the more that you can portion things out, all you have to do is reach in your fridge and pull them out, the better. So if you do some batch cooking on the weekends, or if you do some meal prep on the weekends, go ahead and get yourself some single-serve containers so you can portion things out in your refrigerator, or as you freeze meals, they're already portioned out for you, and it's less work that you have to worry about doing later on in the week. Anyone do any batch cooking on like the weekends or on your days off? And do you find that helpful? Kathy says yes. Yeah, Anna does regularly. Any particular day of the week that works best for you, Anna or Kathy? Friday evening, Sunday. Yeah, Sunday evening is usually the time for me. Kathy, after lunch. So that's a good one. For some people, it could be right after you've prepared dinner to go ahead and start preparing for what your lunch meal is going to be for the next day. If you've made a little extra for dinner, then a good use of time is preparing out what lunch is going to be for that next day, and it's already out of the way. You don't have to think about it. But whatever time frame works for you, you are definitely the expert on that and have the best understanding of your schedule. Anyone do any freezer batch cooking? Amanda says Tuesday mornings. Yeah, so doing some freezer batches is a good thing to do too, especially if you know you have those busy periods where you're not going to have a lot of time to do meal prep. It does take some time up front on the weekend to prep everything out, but very, I think, satisfying to know that you don't have to think about what you're going to cook when you get home or what you're going to cook for the week. Oh, leftovers and freezing. That's a good one. Yeah, I same thing, Kathy. It's just me. So, yeah, if I make a big thing of marinara or some turkey meatballs, then, yeah, I will freeze half of it. So that's a great idea. And I'll portion it out into individual portions and put it in the freezer so that, you know, a few weeks later, I can just take out, you know, 2 or 3 individual portions and use those throughout the week. That's a great way to do it. You guys are pros at this already. I'll give you a second to type in, Linda. All right, so another great tip is to try to make mealtime pleasurable. You know, simply just being relaxed at our meals and not anxious or stressed or worried at our meals allows us to honor those cues around hunger and fullness. So figure out for you what makes mealtime pleasurable, whether that's certain conversations that you don't want to discuss at meal times, or maybe it's having some music on in the background or lighting some candles, or some, you know, having a nice fragrance in the background so that it can be really enjoyable for you. Sometimes having the news on can be a little tense at our meal times because, you know, the craziness of the world is still going on around us even though we're at home. So really try to make mealtime pleasurable by minimizing some of those stressors and not bringing them home with us as much as possible. Another tip is to start, you know, with a smaller serving and then really slow down so that you can really understand your body's cues around fullness. And you want to try to aim to eat until you're about 80% full or satisfied. You want to try to avoid eating to the point of being stuffed. And it may take time for the hormones in your gut to signal to your brain that your stomach has food in it, that you're in fact satisfied. So this is where slowing down, putting your fork down, really taking your time to chew carefully, have a little bit of water in between. That can really be very powerful in helping you understand when you've gotten to that point of satiation, when you're about 80% full and not stuffed. So really slow down and try to give yourself more time to finish your meals. I have to practice this a lot because I'm a fast eater. I have to make a conscious effort to really remind myself, slow down, put my fork down, take some time to chew, have some water in between bites, to really eat with a bit more mindfulness and intention so that you can understand when you're just satisfied and that you don't have to clean everything off of your plate. And it does take practice. So if you're kind of a hurried rush eater, slowing yourself down really takes some practice. So I would encourage you to maybe start with a snack, something small, and really start practicing it in your day and really notice kind of when you're eating distracted or not, and how does that affect how much you eat. Have any of you tried that exercise? I'll give Jennifer a second to type in. You don't do well eating slowly. It does take practice, Jennifer. So one of the things you can do is simply close your eyes and really allow yourself to be present. It's a practice of mindfulness. So in mindful eating, what you want to try to do is close your eyes, allow yourself to be really present while you're eating, not distracted by TV or a conversation around you or thinking about work or other things or family or what have you. Just really focus on the meal and what you're eating in that moment and allow yourself to be really fully present. And closing your eyes can sometimes help with that, but you really want to just take your time, allow yourself to be fully present, allow yourself to feel whatever it is you are feeling, and kind of acknowledge those feelings, but also acknowledge how might those feelings affect how you eat. So a lot of times, and I notice this with myself, I may be anxious or rushed about what I have to do next, like what's down the next. So I've got to finish this group class, and then I've got to go to new patient clinic, and I'm already rushing off to the next thing without being fully present in the moment. So if we can just stop and allow ourselves to just focus on what's in front of us, and kind of clear our mind, allow our mind to be curious about the food that's in front of us, then that meal can be a lot more pleasurable and satisfying and allow us to eat less. So it does take some practice. Start with a snack, and try to get in the habit of doing it, and do it more often so that it becomes a little bit more like second nature. So after you've done it with a snack, then next try to do it with your dinner meal or your breakfast meal. But really start to get in the habit of doing it, and it becomes a little bit more like second nature. All right, another tip is to plate all your meals and snacks first in the kitchen and then sit down to eat. So I highly recommend, again, the less we see, the less we tend to eat, and research has shown this pretty conclusively. So plate everything in the kitchen, then leave the kitchen, sit down with your plate of food, and sit down to eat. Highly recommend not bringing serving dishes out to the table. You think about when you're at a restaurant and the food's just right in front of you, you're more likely to keep reaching for it. So plate your food in the kitchen, sit down and eat, have your meal, and then move on about your day. Don't keep the food sitting right out in front of you. If you're going out to eat, you really want to plan in advance. So if you're going out to eat at a restaurant, if that restaurant has more than 10 stores or 10 outlets, they have to provide you with the nutritional information. So it should be readily available. You can go into MyFitnessPal and view it, or you may be able to go onto the the restaurant's website to see their menu. But if they have more than 10 outlets, they have to provide you with all the nutritional information. So just simply planning in advance about what we're going to eat reduces the likelihood that in the moment we'll make an impulse poor food decision. So really think about what you're going to do in advance. Review the menu. Look at some choices that sound like they will fit your meal plan, and plan to have that. It also gives us something to look forward to, which can make the meal a little bit more enjoyable. Yes, Linda, MyFitnessPal is a great tool for planning ahead. If you all don't use it, highly encourage you to do so. Simply just pulling out your phone and typing in that restaurant in the search bar is extremely helpful. Extremely, extremely helpful. All right. Plan in advance, plan in advance, plan in advance. I can't stress that enough. Also, a good tip is when you get to the restaurant, just assume that unless they have like a lighter fare menu, that meal probably is going to be 600 calories plus. Even a salad, even the meals that we think may be on the healthier side can be full of calories. It's just the way restaurants cook. They're going to cook with butter and with, heavy creams and sauces. Even when they grill something, they may add butter and oil to it. So just assume that meal is probably going to be in the 500-600 calorie range, which for a lot of you, that's nearly double what you should be eating at a meal. So ask for a takeout to-go container before you even start the meal, and box half of your meal up. Ask for the wait staff how the food is prepared, and if they're using, unless it's like a steamed vegetable, just assume that you're going to box half that meal up and you're going to eat the other half at another time. So take it off your plate, get it away from you, have the waiter box it up and put it in a bag, waiting for you until you're finished with your meal. Again, unless it's like a steamed vegetable, all they cooked it in is water, I would just assume that meal is going to be higher in calories than what is recommended for you for your meal plan. Another thing that you could do is just to make your food, if you don't ask for that to-go container, food's still in front of you, just make it inedible. Put your napkin over it, completely salt it with food. If you're a person who is very salt sensitive, just salt it or put a lot of pepper on it so that you no longer have the desire to reach for it. If removing it from the table isn't an option, let's say someone ordered a bunch of things and you can't remove it, then just make the food edible or put your napkin over it as soon as you're done so you're no longer looking at that food. And then always think about the plate method. So the plate method is just a really good visual about how to compose your plate. If, let's say you're at a restaurant, it's a really small boutique restaurant, and you have no idea what the calories are that you're eating. You may have a little bit of idea what some standard portion size is, but you're not really sure. It's hard to tease it out. So try to deconstruct the meal as much as you can. So you can fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables. You can fill a fourth of your plate with a lean protein, and then a fourth of your plate with a complex carb. And if you can generally follow those guidelines, your meal should be around like 300-400 calories. So that's another good, when I'm assuming you're using a smaller plate, a 9-inch plate, so you will need to, get a visual of what a 9-inch plate looks like, so that, you can then see, with a 9-inch plate, if I use the plate method, what does my plate look like? Try to get that visual in your mind so that as you go out to eat places, some things that you can choose that kind of fit that plate method that still allow you to have a meal that's kind of within the calorie range of portions that you should be consuming. Any questions? That's all I have to cover. Do you guys have any questions on portion sizes or serving sizes or other ways to control what your portions are when you're eating out specifically or when you're at home? Yeah, the children's menu, the seniors menu, definitely. The portion sizes are definitely much smaller than the adults. So absolutely, that could be a great way. Ordering some appetizers. I mean, you still want to keep in mind, even with the appetizers, depending on how the food is prepared, some of that can be, high in calories, high in fat. But a lot of restaurants, yeah, do have small plates, do have some appetizer sized portions. So that's a good way to go about it too, to just make sure at least your portions are smaller than what they would be. Those are great suggestions. Japanese. So I would definitely go for like your hibachi style with Japanese food, where you can get like some sautéed or grilled meat and veggies, and then you're just going to have to try to get them to help with if the rice is sitting in front of you, measure out, use your visual cues to try to measure out a half a cup, and try not to overdo it on the rice. That tends to be where we overindulge a bit too much. If you can get brown rice, measure out what a half cup would look like, and then load up on like the sauteed or the steamed vegetables and the sauteed meat or grilled meat. Use that plate method as well, Stephanie. So generally when we're out and it's like buffet style where they put a lot of food in front of you, you want to get one plate. One plate. Use the plate method of filling half that plate with non-starchy vegetables, 1/4 plate of lean protein, 1/4 of a plate of a complex carb. When we tend to keep piling on with multiple plates of food, we're going to overconsume. And keep in mind, you can ask for things to go. So have your one plate. If you get a second plate, ask for a to-go box, and let that be your leftovers for another meal at a later time. If you're doing sushi, that's a hard one to fit into your meal plan. If you're going for Japanese sushi when you're out for Japanese, that's just a really difficult one. You could try like the sashimi, where it's literally just raw fish. That fits perfectly with your meal plan, and pair that with like some pickled vegetables. But if you're doing sushi, the average sushi portion, if you get 6 rolls, is probably anywhere from like 600 to 800 calories. So sushi is a really hard one to fit within your meal plan. The rice, yes, Stephanie, it's the rice. Work on measuring it out. Cook up some rice. Measure out what a half cup looks like, so you have that visual cue. Put it next to your hand so you can understand, what your if you don't have a measuring cup, measure it out first with a measuring cup, and then use your hand, ball up your fist so you can really see what a half a cup of rice really looks like. Any other questions? I think I got to all of you. All right, so I think I got to all of you. Oh, Susan's typing in. Oh, Susan, you're quite welcome. Glad you found it very helpful. You are welcome, Anna. All right, so I will end the call. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. I will end the call. Do hang on for the survey. Fill that out so that we can make sure that you're accounted for and you can get your Perka points. All right, thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you all in clinic soon.